Good evening, folks. I'm Lila. Here is Dean Val, and I'll be reading from his book, Your Dream Visions, by Dwayne, the Great Writer. And we'll be discussing it. If you would like to join in, please feel free to do so. The true purpose of the passing dream is a process for the real you to become aware of, first of all, where you are now and what else is possible besides just being unconscious to the whole of life. Of course, to the overly conditioned personal self, what I am referring to does not at all make sense. So, when one comes across this knowledge of possibly other worlds and other dimensions, they usually scoff at this right away. And if they continue to do so, then they become fossilized into their matrix mind and no longer have free will of their own, but must continue to live in the effects of the dictates of their limited senses, causes, and primitive understanding of what they have come to believe is all that their life and the life itself can be. If we are to properly examine what I am referring to here, we would need a very powerful microscope to detect the existence of what seems so grand from the one-dimensional area of most humans compared to the whole of life, the all is. But what is taking place here is so unbelievably minute that it has its place and not really existing at all. So unbelievingly mute that it has no place and not existing at all. But of course, each one of us must first learn to identify the limitless of being in the physical body, along with the 4 other unseen bodies each of us carries. Our experience here are neither unseen bodies each of us carries. We have unseen bodies. Our experience here are neither good nor bad. Our experiences here are neither good or bad, but simply necessary to discover your real awareness. Dean Val, what do you say about that?
Well, I think it's interesting. He says overly conditioned. The public, the masses are overly conditioned, and I was one of them. I admit that. Even while I was in Eckankar, I was conditioned and to see reality in a certain way. So it takes, Dwayne talks about, it takes a turn. It takes, you have to make a turn of some sort, a huge turn actually to see this, what we're talking about. And I can see, because I was there, and I think most of us were there too, before we found out about what Dwayne was presenting. So it takes a little bit of a consideration, whatever you want to approach it with, but consider that there's more that you don't know than you know. And I would say, like Dwayne says, there's a lot more that you don't know than you know, a lot more. We're just so minute here in terms of, we think this reality is so big that it's just a speck in the whole of things. So consider that, and consider that there's more, even yourself, you can be more expansive within your 5 bodies, with your awareness. You can be a lot more aware than what you're taught. And that's why, people scoff at the conspiracy theorists, because they're usually out there a little bit, They may not have all the answers, but they're at least out there looking at possibilities, and they're seeing actual things that are going on. But the way things are set up, the controllers use the conspiracy theory idea, and then people just scoff at the knowledge and information that's brought back by these other so-called conspiracy theorists. So expand, take a chance, consider that there's more than that you don't know.
The mind wants to continue to sleep, but it is the body that is resting and researching the influence. Or the body may want to rest, but the mind cannot be shut off for the person to fall asleep. This is a type of conflict between the body and the conscious mind that wants to sleep. Thus, a dream vision is produced for one part of the individual to try and communicate with the other. The real you is always able to take control and recognize what is taking place when it has been trained to do so. So, if the body wants to relieve itself with the bodily functions, the real you may experience a running around in their dream vision, trying to find a place to do so. And if the person does not want to get up, then there will be no place found for the relief. And most people, because they have been trained and conditioned to use the proper restroom, they will hold themselves even to the point of pain. If they cannot find one, sometimes we have to go with what the Indians did, and that is use the great outdoors. In a young child, this may be different because they know Mommy is always there to clean up the mess. So for the most part, they will wet the bed and keep dreaming because they do not have a rigid, conditioned mind yet. From this simple dream, a person can see there is so much more for them than can be realized on the surface. The mind, body, and emotions all play a part in a person's makeup and have a life of their own, and they are able to produce a communication to the conscious self and try and get a response. Until we understand where we are and what we are doing here, each person that stays unaware of their real awareness must continue to recycle until they do wake up from the millions of lifetimes that they have been asleep in what really is. And so the simple dream is where the situation is wholly external and outside of the conscious mind. It mainly deals with some sort of physical sensation or action. The basic human on this world relates more so to their outer situations and circumstances than they do to the internal workings of themselves, because for the most part, they do not really understand themselves, and if they do, they need help beyond what is considered professional remedies and cures from this world. Here again is where just having a definition of in the book does not necessarily equal a resolution, because the dreamer has no real education about their own vehicle and the functions of who we are. The next type of a complex dream, or the idea and the creation, is from something internal. This is where the desire for things becomes a part of ourselves, to where we take on the situations that go with the desires to have whatever it is that we want in our lives. It would seem to make sense to desire something and then add certain emotions to it. But then we always run into situations having to deal with what we wanted. When the person is bothered by something, mainly the idea of it is not always the thing itself. They will have dreams along the same line, that of escape from the created environment. There are lessons to be learned from ourselves if we pay close attention, because we are the exact duplicate of the true reality, only on a smaller scale. This is why worshiping something does not make sense, even though a large majority of people would disagree, because we are our own creative beings. Here is one of the biggest psychological mishaps that has been created and can be a band-aid for a time, even lifetimes. But there will come the very moment when the person has had enough of the lower over-bombardment of deceptive tactics that have plagued mankind for centuries. The case here being the invention of something outside of each of us, yet it affects the internal most being of ourselves. And that is, first of all, the idea of something greater than ourselves and the supposed actuality that is something outside of ourselves that's greater. This scenario has perplexed humans for untold eons, because a certain few have deemed it to be so. You have an idea about that? Or really what I am referring to is the invented gods of man as a prime example, and how most unaware people have given themselves body, mind, and what they deem to be their own soul to something that has been purposely created outside of themselves as a deceptive ploy to actually control them in a misleading manner, as it is only evident that everything each of us do is from ourselves, because we are always the decision maker, even though we are constantly dealing with things which are not and ourselves, and also which are outside of ourselves. Here is where real lostness occurs as events and situations seem to look normal, but at some point begin to change and go into another direction. What I am deciding here is the workings of this material realm and how the actuality of it is. Yet when a person cannot control their outer environment, they then many times have internal situations that become evident with their dream visions. A good example of this is a person can have a perfectly good life going on for them, and they are an upstanding person in the community as they prove this by attending their decided place or belief in or faith on a regular basis. But for some, when a loved one dies, they may become upset with their so-called creator. And why is it that he has let them? Why has it that this has happened to them? Here again is an inner conflict occurring because of an outer situation which has very little understanding attached to it and absolutely no real education at all.
Tim, do you have anything to comment?
Yeah. Do you have some comments about this? Anyone?
Yeah.
Or Dean or someone?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I was just thinking about how Dwayne's saying that we created ourselves, and that it's like how can the human mind relate to that? About, is it like an imagination? Because we don't seem to be able to, in this physical realm, create things like ourselves. It's like the invisible. It's like being blind, and you have to be able to see how you created yourself, or perceive, or whatever the word is.
It's so dense.
And then
here. Yeah. Go ahead.
And then so our human minds get all convinced by these controllers that there's a God that created us, because we don't see that we created ourselves. To hear that we created ourselves is something that is hard to understand from what we're used to having been told about how we were created, when we don't see how we created ourselves. It's just like, what is it that we know that others don't, or what is it that a person sees that other people don't see? And how can you relate if you see something that it would be benefit for everyone? How can you make them see that if they're not interested, or if they're like blind? Some may see and others may not.
It's a challenge for all the real guides. Every real guide that's been here, it's always been a challenge. And they got to work off what the consciousness of the times are. So right now, Dwayne is working off a lot here. There's a lot going on that has to be dealt with in terms of the controllers, with their technology and their social engineering. They've got a lot of stronghold and foothold here with people. So it's a lot It's a lot to offset